raining around here. Hopefully you guys can hear me, but I would like to make a video talking about taxes, corporations, and the Federal Reserve, and how those three keep you in perpetual slavery, if it can be described that way. Now, in my previous video, I was talking about how your mind sets obstacles, and yes, that is true. But obviously there are exterior things we need to talk about as well, because we can't disconnect ourselves from a reality, the world we live in. So let's talk about the Federal Reserve and how the dollar we use is an impediment, slows you down in what you want to achieve. So each dollar that's created is debt. Every dollar that's created is owed back to the Federal Reserve, plus interest. So the fact that the Federal Reserve creates money out of thin air, they just print it, is theft. Legalized theft, because they can do it, of course. So that causes inflation. This money gets circulated. That's the money we use for everything, for commerce. Your employer pays you with it. You buy stuff with it. The reason why it has value is because the world uses it. So this thing that they created, that the Federal Reserve created, is a slave system, because they decide when they want to print, how much they want to print. They even set the interest rates for how much it costs them to lend those printed fake dollars. It's a totally immoral system, and a lot of people don't know or don't understand how it works. It's not, obviously not taught in school how that happens. And it's important to understand how inflation works. I learned a lot throughout the years from Peter Schiff and Mike Maloney. I owe a lot to them from what I know today. I've been studying economics, finance, banking for many years, almost a decade now. And I feel like it's proper to share what I know now that I did not know 10 years ago. Things I should have known ever since I was a child, to be honest. My life would have been so much easier by now. So we live in a system where we use a dollar that is constantly printed. We used to use gold. Our dollars were backed by gold. That was taken off by Nixon in 1971. So now the Federal Reserve just prints whatever they want, whatever they want to print. That's why housing keeps going up, food goes up, oil prices, everything you want to think about, car prices, used car prices, and so on. And it's just going to keep going up, because that's the name of the game. That's what inflation does. It steals from you. You save money at the bank, you think that's something proper to do, and sure, that's what you've been told ever since you've been little. Oh, you should save money. Okay, but how much are you losing per year due to inflation, due to Federal Reserve theft? 9%, 8%, which are the numbers that we currently have for inflation rates. That's insane. So it's not proper. And then if you put your money on a CD or you put it on a savings account, you're still losing. What the bank pays you is not enough to cover for that inflation. So you're forced to invest your money. And here we're going to talk about taxes. Here's another thing. When you lose through inflation, you can't deduct that loss from your taxes. You're not allowed to. Like inflation, you can't deduct that from taxes. So it's an unfair system. It's slavery. And then when you invest your money into the stock market, for example, once you gain profits, you get taxed over those profits, right? And from the very beginning, you're the one risking your money to make money, right? So you can't deduct your losses from your inflation, and then you get taxed on your gains. So it's a lose-lose situation for you, and it's a win-win situation for the government. It's ridiculous, and this is never gonna change unless people understand it and speak about these issues, these problems, because the people at the top, they want it to be this way, and that's how the elite keep the people at the bottom poor and begging and in the rat race. This is how corporations, the government, the Federal Reserve, the tax system keeps you in a perpetual rat race. So, and now we got to talk about corporations, because this is another hot topic as well. So companies that are publicly traded, their incentive is to pay shareholders back through dividends and stock buybacks. And if you're at the bottom, if you're an employee, well, you don't benefit from that. The ones that benefit from that are the shareholders. So you have to become a shareholder, meaning you have to invest in order to get the rewards from companies. So basically, corporations get as much profit as they can from employees, steal all that wealth, put it into the market, and if you're not invested, well, that's money lost for you. So you're forced to invest your money. You're forced to look for investments. You're forced to buy real estate, to buy stocks. And by the way, let me put it out there. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I just want to know that, and I want to point that out for each and every one of my videos. Whenever I talk about this stuff, I don't want any issues. So it puts you in a difficult spot where if corporations steal from you, if the IRS steals from you, if the Federal Reserve steals from you, you're forced to invest, you're forced to have a business, right? And just put as many deductions as you can if you have a business. There's no other choice. If you have real estate rentals, and then you have to raise the rents to keep up with inflation, because if the Federal Reserve raises rates, that's going to cost you, and you have to raise your rents. If Home Depot raises their paint prices or their materials, well, you have to raise your rent prices to cover for those remodeling costs that you might have, for your rental properties. So it shouldn't be this way. It's more difficult than it should be, but it is what it is. It's how the people at the top keep the people at the bottom in this perpetual slavery, in the rat race. where a large portion of the population, has to live paycheck by paycheck, and it just shouldn't be this way. It's not going to be until people understand this, and that we as a population start taking action against these things. It's not going to be until that point until we as a collective start making changes. Sure, cryptocurrencies probably, the idea is great, but the problem with cryptocurrencies is that they aren't scarce. When I started looking into cryptocurrencies in 2017, there was about 600 cryptocurrencies. Now there's like 15,000 or more. I haven't checked, probably 20,000 different cryptocurrencies. So yes, Bitcoin is scarce. Okay, great. But there's so many other cryptocurrencies, and they're all competing. They're all competing against Bitcoin, right? And if we want to fight against, for example, the Federal Reserve and this dollar system that we have, which is slavery, as a society, we have to first agree on, well, what are we going to use as a currency? Is it going to be Bitcoin through Lightning Network, or is it going to be something else? First, we need to agree with that, get that out of the way, and then start using a currency that makes sense for everyone, so that we aren't stolen through inflation. And then, the IRS system, the tax system needs to be remade. A lot of things need to change there. And in regards to corporations, more value should be placed to the employee. That's just the way that I view it. And of course, these are just 3 different topics, because obviously it's much more complex than just this, what I'm talking about. When we're talking about the so-called rat race, which can take years or decades to escape. Basically assets that pay for you, for your day-to-day living expenses. That's what's necessary in order to escape the rat race, the passive income. Reaching that point, probably through dividends, a business, or real estate. Reaching that point can take many years, but before reaching that point, one needs to understand that's the way to do it, in order to be able to solve this rat race issue, so-called. Well, that's all for today, guys. Have a good one.